Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Musings from the Mount podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Carenza. What does it mean to truly be of service? In this first episode of a 3-part series, we explore the profound distinction between service as an obligation and service as a soul's natural expression. Drawing from the Ageless Wisdom teachings, we examine how true service emerges not from duty or scorekeeping, but as the spontaneous outflow of a loving heart and an intelligent mind. Through practical examples and spiritual insights, we'll reveal how service becomes not something we do, but rather what we naturally are when aligned with our soul's purpose. And we hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy this podcast, please consider going to meditationmount.org and donating. Your donation helps us to bring you this podcast as well as all the other programs the Mount produces, both today and in the future. We're incredibly grateful and honored with your support. Now, back to the podcast and service without a scoreboard. What does it mean to be of service? And more importantly, what does it mean to serve? It's a question that we both embody here at Meditation Mount, we struggle with. I think we do a pretty good job at it. But what does it mean in a greater sense? And for your personal journey, for you're here on this earth for a set amount of time. You can do whatever you want. It's an open season, free will planet. But what does it mean to choose a life of service? And we thought, okay, let's talk about that. And then, as Michael just told me before, as we really start to read about it, you realize, okay, it's more than one episode. So we're going to do a 2 or 3-parter on service. But what does it mean to serve?
It depends how you view it, how you hold it in your heart, how you hold it in your mind. I know, for instance, many people, once they've gone through their professional lives, they've made a career, they've established themselves, they retire, and then you hear the phrase, I need to give back to society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's to say, well, I owe society something because look what I achieved myself.
Mm.
Fair enough. That's a healthy relationship.
Sure.
The service that we're talking about is not about some obligation at the end of your own personal career,
right,
to give back. You're not giving back. Service is the total giving from the heart of who you are to the life around you, because you are also being served by a greater life. So service for me is not transactional. If you want the bottom line, service for me is when I am fully participating in life. Therefore, it isn't about, well, I need to give back or I need to do this, but I am part of this life. Life flows through me. Allow it to flow through me. And then I think the big test is how we take care of our own personal needs, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe that, well, I'd love to be of service, but I've got to take care of myself. And there is a time when we have to learn the skills of living on earth and taking care of self, being responsible. But in the end, the way that we take care of self is to honor the purpose of self.
Mm.
And the purpose of self is to be an active agent of life. And to do that, you basically say, yes, here I am. I'm part of it. I'm all in.
Mm.
It sounds very simple. At one level, it's a big yes. Not a yes to somebody else, not a sense of, well, I owe it to life. We don't owe anything. I think getting out of that mental relationship with service is, for me, important. I have to understand it with the mind. But when I understand that service, as we've said many times on these podcasts, service is the natural, the urge of the soul to give of its love, it's warmth, it's light, it's wisdom. It's a natural circulation of energy, just as our heart circulates the blood around our own system. So, service is the way that life circulates its own beingness around its own system of life. Now, that could be your own ecosystem, the Joey and the Michael, and we take care of ourselves. It could be our community, our family, it could be the world, it could be our nation. There are different levels of community, but in the end, service is about participating in a positive way for the betterment of our community. Not over or against anything else, but because that's our sphere of responsibility and our sphere of influence. And I guess that's what it is. Service, when we choose an area in which to serve, we're choosing something that we can take on. It's not too much. It's our sphere of influence. It's our sphere of responsibility. I said, you say to yourself, I'll take on this. I'll go help out at the soup kitchen. I'll do this. Now, you're doing something that's not going to solve the hunger in the world, and yet it is part of the great solution because it goes back to the whole principles of caring and sharing. And sharing simply means to pass it on. So service for me is passing on life as it enters us and moves through us. I don't know if that really touches the ground enough, but we can get. That's why we've got probably 3 episodes in this series on service, because it really has to be understood at the deepest level and then brought right down to the ground, because the reason we are incarnated is that so we can bring this deep vision and dream that lives inside us into reality. We serve it. So when you contemplate the word service and reflect on what service means to you, Joey, what's the story you tell yourself?
That's interesting you say, what's the story? Because for me, service has been a lifetime sort of vocation without really realizing that's what I was doing. I've been in service of the arts and artists, and it just came naturally to me to support and help that grow. And for me, the act of service was helping these people realize their dreams. And then, there's a thing. Okay, well, what was your dream? What were you doing? And I realized that didn't really factor into it for me. Like it was never that. And so, without having the vocabulary, without having the sort of philosophical background or the textual background, I didn't realize what being of service really meant. And looking at it now, in terms of a story, I think of service as this the act of giving without a leaderboard, without a scoreboard. There's no. It's not something you do for likes or something you need to take a picture of or share on Instagram. It's just a state of being. It's almost a state of grace, where you're allowing the energy of the universe to come through you and help it any way possible. It's not like I'm going to be a good person today and do this thing. No, it's I'm going to be a certain way all day, every day.
Exactly.
And I'm going to live my life in a way that makes sure that I am available should the bell ring. And that bell rings the bells. You might not be able to hear it. It might be hidden underneath, or it might be someone that you didn't know. It might be some person that just needs someone to talk to for a minute, but you're there to answer the bell.
You're on call.
Yeah.
What I love about what you just said is that you weren't there to help a particular artist be the best in the world, but you, as we said in our conversations, that the arts form this carrier wave of the Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
So the new dream of a society that is in the ethers is anchored through science, anchored through art, anchored through many different avenues, but the arts are really important because they're non-distorted by beliefs.
Yeah.
And so the arts actually give voice and give shape and sound to something that we hold in our heart. So when we hear a piece of music or we hear a song, it touches us because it captures the spirit of what we sense inside us, of what we want the future to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so supporting the arts isn't so, I'm a patron of the arts, I give money to this orchestra. It's beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, that's something that I spent a significant portion of my life doing is sometimes I guess there's a difference between, you need the pipe and then the water comes through it, or you need the cable that electricity can flow through. You hold support and allow like these people who are incarnated here to do their work,
When you realize that we're in the band together, and the band are not just the musician, it's the band of artists.
That's right.
Some of them are stage managed, some of them do the lighting, some do the sound, some do whatever. The road is God's road is.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's maybe what I am. I'm one of God's roadies.
One of God's roadies. I love that. In that respect, you realize there is one group and we're all part of it. And whatever part we play is as important as any other part. That's the whole thing with group endeavor and group consciousness. It's not a question, well, who's the best in the group? There may be people who are more equipped and more skilled at performing one function over another. That's competency.
Yeah.
And therefore, you allow the person who understands sound to be the sound engineer. You allow the person who plays bass the best to be the bassist. It's that simple.
That's right.
But it's not a pecking order.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it gets that way, but
there's an inherent competency scale. But yeah, it's not I guess there is that there, but it's based on, really it comes down to who can transmit the most, who can it's almost alchemical, who can allow the beauty of the performance or the beauty of the writing or the beauty of the sound to come through in the most effective, efficient, and beautiful way.
And it may be like some deep feminine mother energy of holding the field so all of this can be born and flow, and you don't get the spotlight shone on you.
Yeah, that's very true.
Not, as you say, it's not a reader board.
Yeah, it's not. It's that was something that I really found interesting in the section on Ponder on This, when he's talking about, and Alice Bailey wrote, how a lot about just what goes into being someone of service, how, maintaining your body, maintaining your mind, but also, you're not doing this for headlines. You're not doing it for, some material reward, and it's a touchy, really interesting thing, because, it's also not just going and living in a cave and meditating,
Well, in a competitive world, there is this sort of tendency to want to be seen as the best in any field.
Yeah.
The GOAT.
Right. Yeah.
The greatest of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting they take the goat, because the goat eventually has to climb up to the top of the mountain and be transformed into the unicorn.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that you call, whether it's in soccer, it's Messi or Ronaldo or who's the goat.
That's right.
We love to put people on a pedestal, but what we're doing is we're recognizing their skill, but then it becomes, we set them up. It becomes they're the best. And we've said, in jest, but also seriously, there is no Cooperstown for world servers. There's no Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you're just saying. You do it because it's what life is asking of itself. And when you realize that we're part of life, all you're doing is saying yes to your greater self, of which you are currently incarnated as its agent on earth, God's roadie.
Yeah. I think an important component of that, which really just kind of dawned on me when I reread this last night and again this morning, is it also there's a lot of freedom in that. And so the concept of there's no scoreboard for service, right? And in this world where we're so surrounded by this concept of your resume, what have you done? How good are you? It frees you up from that. You're not grading yourself on how great you do service. It's not that. It's a constant striving to be a more perfect version of yourself in service,
And in that striving, you grow your capacity, you grow your ability to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, as you grow your capacity, you're given more, or you're presented with opportunities.
Right.
Now, we've mentioned Ponder on this compilation by Alice Bailey, and we've used this as the central theme in a number of our podcasts, and we're going to do the same for this series on service. There is quite a bit written by the Tibetan master on service, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go through it sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, and just uncover what's there, discover, uncover, recover.
Yeah.
And have some ahas, hopefully, that we've never had before.
Right.
And we usually say that the quotes that we're using come from writings 50, 60, 70 years ago, and so the language is predominantly the pronoun, right? Pronouns are masculine, and it may use a language that is not now fully accepted as being correct or appropriate. We're going to stick to the original because it's easier to read, and also it does carry its own power, its own formula. And so if we can get beyond the fact that it will say he, and wherever possible, if it says mankind, I'll say humanity or something like that, just to let you know, because there may be people following along with the actual quote saying, well, no, that's not, he didn't say that. So we could simply start and see where it leads us, because the whole thing of service is saying yes to life. And if you lead a meditated life rather than a premeditated life, you have no idea where it will lead you. It will be a journey of service. It will be a journey of growth. It will be a journey of joyful labor. But you're not given a plan of, hey, if you serve, this is where you'll end up.
Mm-hmm.
Where we will end up is having a greater capacity to be of service. So, here it starts, shall I? Out of duty, perfectly performed, will emerge those large duties which we call world work. Out of the carrying of family responsibilities will come that strengthening of our shoulders, which will enable us to carry those of the larger group. It's just you grow by degrees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also interesting because the concept of the family gets a lot of attention now. Where there's that 1950s version of the nuclear family, which we all sort of family, and since then we've sort of redefined what family is. The simplicity of this is that's just the family is just where you get your start. It's where you learn your first thing about giving more to someone else.
And also when you understand from an esoteric perspective that family is the community of lives and souls with whom you incarnated, your parents, you came through them, what determined that family configuration was a combination of karma and dharma.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some lessons to learn from the past. There may be some lessons to learn from the future, so you're not weighed down with old baggage. It may be just a bright new place to start.
Mm-hmm.
But because we've made mistakes and done things as we go along, normally a family is also where you work out patterns. And therefore, it's only normal for a child to rebel against its parents because what it sees in them is some of the seeds of the things that need to be worked on inside themselves. But they don't figure it out that way yet.
Right.
Until you're a parent.
Yeah.
And then when you're dealing with the children, oh my God, I sound just like my father. Which is not saying anything bad. It's like, oh my God, Yeah. So the question is, how do you break the old narrative and how do you become part of the new story?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what DK's saying is the new story starts with being fully engaged in life, being of service.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, humanity serves, and in the development of conscious aptitude for service, in the growth of a conscious understanding of the individual part to be played, in the working out of the plan, and in the rendering of the personality subject to the soul, will come the steady progress of humanity towards its goal of world service. So eventually we're growing our capacity to be of service to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a word that came up in this paragraph, the plan. And maybe we should just look at that.
Yeah, that always comes up for me too.
The divine plan. So
Yeah.
it's a plan. It's already preordained.
Right.
You mean there's no free will? So I go all the time back to gardening. I mean, this is where I got my insight into systems and systems stewardship. When I'm about to plant some carrot seeds, I know that inside that carrot seed is the promise, the picture, the potential, the power for the manifestation of the carrot. And if I cut the seed open with a knife, I will not find a carrot because I have to plant it in the fields of time and space, and it has to emerge. Therefore, what is deep inside the seed, the fiery center, the nucleus of a seed, is really its deep purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And the design of how that purpose is going to be worked out is called the plan. And then for the plan to be manifest, it's planted in the soil and it grows.
Mm-hmm.
And in the writings of Alice Bailey, there are these 3 levels given: purpose, plan, project. Purpose is the fiery will. It's akin to Shambhala.
Mm-hmm.
The plan is the living design that will allow that purpose to be fulfilled. It's the spiritual architecture that is held by the ashram of enlightened souls, the 5th realm. And then there is the hands and feet end of stuff in the 4th realm of the humans, which is called project. So we are responsible for carrying it. We're the project managers of the divine dream. Yeah, God's rotors, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you look at it that way, it's not less than, because the dream could not be fulfilled on earth. My carrot could not grow if I just kept those seeds in the packet or in my hand
Mm-hmm.
or on my shelf and meditated on them every day.
Right.
You need to plant them in the fields of time and space. So the divine dream, the divine purpose, has its plan, its strategy for outworking, which is the divine plan. And then you have the actual doing of it, the project. The laborers in the field, the workers in the field, as the Bible refers to it. And Agni Yoga talks about the hands and feet. We're the hands and feet. Doesn't mean we're sort of some sort of slaves. It just means that's our function.
Yeah.
So when we talk about plan, it's preordained in the way that the truth of who we are is, but how it unfolds and its beauty is revealed is up to our skill, our competency, and our ability to work with others and bringing that into reality. So you've always got these 3 levels: purpose, plan, project, spirit, soul, personality. And in Agni Yoga, they talk about the fiery world, the subtle world, the manifested world. So purpose would be the fiery world. The plan would be the subtle world. And the actual garden where the stuff grows will be the manifested world. mean, it's a very simple way of looking at it, but it helps me understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm incarnated. Why are we incarnated? Well, because this is where the garden is.
Yeah, right.
So when we see plan, it isn't somebody telling us what to do. It's the promise of life itself. And then those beings who are wise think, right, now the strategy for revealing that purpose would be this. And then we are in service to that deep purpose. We're in service to the plan. And as project managers on earth of divine purpose, we serve. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it. And, but for me, it helps me understand my place in the greater scheme of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. The master looks not at a worker's worldly force or status, not at the numbers of people who are gathered around his personality, but at the motives which prompt his activity and at the effect of his influence upon his fellow men. True service is the spontaneous outflow of a loving heart and an intelligent mind. It is the result of being in the right place and staying there. It is produced by the inevitable inflow of spiritual force and not by strenuous physical plane activity. It is the effect of a man's being what he truly is, a divine creature of God, and not by the studied effect of his words or deeds. A true server gathers around him those whom it is his duty to serve and aid by the force of his life and his spiritualized personality, and not by his claims or loud speaking. In self-forgetfulness he serves. In self-abnegation he walks the earth. He gives no thought to the magnitude or the reverse of his accomplishment, and has no preconceived ideas as to his own value or usefulness. He lives, serves, works, and influences, asking nothing for the separated self. That's a powerful view.
Actually,
sentences.
It's one of my favorite passages in all of the Alice Bailey books, actually.
Well,
it
tell
really
me
is.
more. Why? What called to you?
I mean, there's so much to unpack from this, but that the concept of, the worldly force of status, not of numbers of people that gathered around, gathered around him, and also the part about a true server gathers around him those who is his duty to serve. I mean, I think about that in terms of you just by being of that energy, you attract those that the ones that you're supposed to help, whether that's your family or the people that you create with or whatever it is in life. And it's just like that. It's just, for me, it just encompasses the entirety of what it means to serve. It's a beautiful passage.
Yeah. Well, it takes it away from, I have a band of followers.
Yeah. Right. It's not like did you start your own cult, or did you start a new mega church or anything like that? It could be two people, it could be one person. It's not measuring the numbers, it's measuring the influence that you're able to have, the amount of light, the amount and love that you're able to transmit, and that help that you can give. It's not measured in the millions and thousands. It's just measured in like the importance of one person helping another.
And throughout the teachings, they keep saying, it's the small things, it's the little things. You do the little things.
Yeah,
those are the big things. The little things are the big things. Sure, there are big things that turn the world around, and there's a major shift. However, it's an accumulation of all the small deeds. Small, not small by, if you like, numbers, but large when you think about the size of the heart that is holding and serving.
I love that last line too, because it also it gives away the whole game, actually. So he lives, serves, and works and influences, asking nothing for, and this is the most important part, the separated self. That gives away the whole game there. Like you're not helping someone else. You are helping the one that which you are part of.
Thank you.
know?
Because that's why life is not transactional.
Yeah.
You are participating in the one life as an aspect of the one life.
Right.
Therefore, you are serving the one life, and the one life is serving you. So it's this continuous flow and merging and commingling, not transactional.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you serve me. I think I'll serve you now.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. This is not that kind of service. And we talk about customer service.
Right. No, it's not that.
We're not talking about customer service.
Yeah. And I think it also, it really gives a place for, if you think about service and things like the imbalance that sometimes exists in a relationship, like one person gives more than the other, seemingly, it alleviates that, in that you realize that that's not exactly what's happening. I mean, I think about, my feet give a lot to my body. I mean, they're the ones that they have to take every step. They have to, but they don't, it's not that, my feet don't need their own union. They are a union of me.
Well, it goes back to what you just said about the reader board and not keeping score.
Yeah.
If I think that, I'm giving more than somebody else, no, that's the pain of comparison.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I'm giving what I'm called to give from my heart because it's what I can give, and therefore I give all I can. In the Bible, it talked about the widow's mite. She gave all she had. A mite was like, just, I don't know, 1/10 of a cent or something minuscule.
Yeah.
But it's all she had. She gave it all.
Right.
Rather than say, I'm going to give a few percent of my earnings or my whatever.
Yeah.
No, she gave everything. And that's why Jesus in the Bible said, look at the widow. Like, she gave everything. Okay, so it was compared to the amount.
Right.
But she gave everything.
Yeah.
It's not quantitative, it's qualitative.
Yeah.
That's the measurement.
Yeah. That's the beautiful part. Just this passage is always really absolutely one of my favorite. And I think one of the most elegant. I just.
So there's more to come.
Yep. Here we go.
I urge upon each and all the necessity for renewed effort to fit themselves for service by a conscious and deliberate effort to develop the intuition and to achieve illumination. Every human being who reaches the goal of light and wisdom automatically has a field of influence which extends both up and down, and which reaches both inwards to the source of light and outwards into the quote-unquote fields of darkness. When he has thus attained, he will become a conscious center of life-giving force, and will be so without effort. He will stimulate, energize, and vivify to fresh efforts all lives that he contacts, be they his fellow aspirants, or an animal, or a flower. He will act as a transmitter of light in the darkness. He will dispel the glamour around him and let in the radiance of reality. Wow. Now that's a blessing, isn't it? Imagine bringing those blessings. It's imagine you're in a black and white landscape, and then some wise, loving person comes, and suddenly it changes into sort of full spectrum color.
Yeah, that's a great description of what this is. I mean, it's kind of like in Wizard of Oz when they.
Yeah, I was thinking, or the Phantom Toll Booth.
Yeah.
Or all these movies that suddenly switch to color from black and white.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are doing. We're switching from black and white, which is duality, to full color. And
it's also saying is like that is what you do when you open up the world for somebody else. When you illuminate the world for somebody else. And that's, I think, why the paragraph before is so important too, is because it's not keeping score of that. It's But it's an effect that works like compound interest. The more illumination you bring, it's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It spreads with a multiplier effect.
Now, when you understand what DK just said in that paragraph, you realize that there are beings doing exactly the same to us.
Yeah.
The so-called masters of wisdom, the postgraduate humans, they've reached a level of loving wisdom and service of the plan that they hold us in the light and love of their being. Not just, oh, yes, somebody's thinking good thoughts. It's an actual energy field that calls forth all the things that we just talked about in this last paragraph.
Yeah.
So it calls forth aspiration, it calls forth courage, it calls forth illumination, because we're being held in a field which is charged with the particles of wisdom, the charged particles of light, and the charged particles of service.
Yeah.
It's a magnetic appeal. To talk about the soul having a magnetic appeal.
That's true.
Service is the magnetic appeal of life to us.
Yeah.
And it is very appealing.
It is. It really is. I also love that it throws in there be it fellow aspirants or to an animal or to a flower, and how it's not specifically just helping. It takes it from the sentence, the separated self. It takes it beyond just separated human self. You're actually part of yet a bigger system called this planet Earth.
Well, exactly. And I had the fortune of being an organic gardener, and I did that in Sweden. But then where things started to happen when I was working in the gardens at the Findhorn community in Scotland. And for a couple of years, I had responsibility for the original vegetable garden, where the experiments took place between the angels and the nature forces and the humans, this triangle of cooperation. And therefore, you realize that it was just this cooperation. Each day you were cooperating with life, and you were working with the devas, the angels, who hold the design of each of the species, and each of the different species of plants or animals. That's the plan. Then you're working with the elementals, who are the builders, the project builders of the natural realms. These are the fairies, the gnomes, the undines, the sylphs of the folklore. And then you got the humans. And we're there to work together. So this paragraph we just read really strikes home for me, because you realize how much the flowers respond to love. And that was the experiment I did with potatoes up in the farm in the west of Sweden, of dividing up a patch of land in two and planting potatoes. And half of the patch I just sort of neglected. The other part I talked to, I stroked, I gave it love, I tended to it daily. And the plants were more vibrant, the leaves were greener, the potatoes were larger and more tasty. So I realized that that's how it is. And then we know from the work of Cleve Baxter, who did the experiments with the sensitivity of plants. And he was a former FBI agent, so he was knowledgeable in the use of lie detectors. So he hooked up a lie detector to a philodendron, and then he had somebody think negative thoughts about the philodendron, like, I'm going to burn a hole in your leaf with my cigarette. And they stood in the other room and did it, and there was a flicker. It registered. On the voltometer, on the thing, and then they realize that every thought we send out has an effect.
Yes,
we do it with each other. Every thought we send out. So service is not just serving soup; it's making sure the thoughts that we send out are really of service, and are not poisoning the atmosphere.
I think that's really, really important. I think that gets back to the first opening couple paragraphs. And maybe you could expand on it a little bit more. The idea that as service is not a scoreboard, the service you could be doing is just simply radiating joy, radiating beauty, radiating, positivity. That is service. And I think that sometimes we get too wrapped up in getting a prize or a trophy or a recognition, where your act of service could simply just be walking down the sidewalk and being a positive energy rather than a negative energy. And that could affect, and not just could affect, actually does affect everyone you come in contact with.
There was a phrase that one of the spiritual teachers used, when was it? Gosh, many years ago, basically said, be like the sun, give of your light and give of your warmth and ask for nothing in return.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sun, it's a nuclear factory of light and heat.
Mm-hmm.
It's of service, but it itself is being held by a greater life,
mm-hmm.
A greater version of itself.
Right.
And so I think what we're experiencing now is exactly what you're saying, is that when I truly am authentic, when I am being myself, my natural inner modality is to be kind.
Yeah.
That's why there's many Buddhist sects who just focus on metta, loving kindness, because at the heart of everything is loving kindness. If I can be loving and kind in every situation, then I'll ask before I do anything, before I say anything, is what I'm about to say, think, or do kind, helpful, and true?
Right.
If it is, so be it. If it isn't, I withhold.
Yeah.
And we get into, good intentions and and all of that in here.
Sure.
So it says so we go back to that we'll dispel the glamour around and let the radiance of reality shine. When large numbers of people can act so, then the human family will enter upon its destined work of planetary service. See, that's the whole idea. We're here to release the light within matter.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that before. That's our role, but we can only release the light within matter as we release the light within our own beingness, the light that is hidden inside the personality, the separated self. So the separated self has to be reunited.
Okay.
Goes back to the mystery of the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in Christian terminology, but the whole fact of this planet with its symbol of a cross inside a circle, which is light buried in matter. Can the light be released? So the service on earth is to release the light and love hidden at the heart of every atom by being that light and love itself. That is the act of service.
Right.
Its mission, this is talking about humanity, its mission is to act as a bridge between the world of spirit and the world of material forms. All grades of matter meet in the human being. All grades of matter. This is why it said that we are everything from the highest fire to the lowest frequency of substance lives inside us.
Yeah.
Angelic stuff lives inside us. All the elements live inside us. It's a meeting place. It's a caravanserai of consciousness. It's where things come together. And when we realize that this is the one place where life for the first time can meet itself inside the human consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible beauty to that. When you realize, I think that's also important of each person, the incredible beauty, the universe is alive inside of you. And you are this expression of the universe. And there's no small shows. Every show is the big show.
And yet, when I'm living in my separated self, I'm cut off from that multidimensional universe, which is my I am.
Yeah, exactly.
So he said, all grades of matter meet in the human being, and all states of consciousness are possible. Mankind can work in all directions and lift the subhuman kingdoms into heaven and bring heaven down to earth. Now, when it says lift the subhuman kingdoms, it doesn't mean that they're lesser in worth. It just means they have not yet got the ability to release the light locked inside of them.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's fantastic.
Somebody can be wiser than me, but not more important.
Yeah.
As we said before, at the level of the monad, all monads are equal.
Yeah, that's true.
When they're sprinkled like seeds in time and space, and they grow and they develop, you'll see so many different stages of growth.
Yeah.
That's when we start to compare. He's better than me, I'm better than her. The pain of comparison, when in fact, we are all equal at the deepest level.
Yeah. It's that trick that time plays on us, the way we experience time.
And time, as the master DK says, is simply the sequential way that the mind processes consciousness.
Right.
You think of the old-fashioned movie films. They're in a canister.
Yeah.
So you've got all these frames in one canister. Yeah. Now, if I was to give you that canister all at once, it would just be a blur of light.
Yeah.
So what do I have to do? In time and space, I have to give it to you frame by frame.
Yeah. That's a fantastic analogy because
Who framed Roger Rabbit?
Exactly. Because when you hold the whole canisters and you hold the cans, and that whole film exists simultaneously the whole time.
But it
doesn't make any sense unless you look at it one frame at a time. Yeah.
Therefore, one frame at a time is past, present, and future. And therefore, the brain says, I can handle this. I can handle it one frame at a time.
Right.
But don't give me everything all at once. I am not a quantum computer yet.
Yeah. Not yet. We're working on it, though.
We are working on it.
We've got our best people on it.
This call to service usually meets with a response, but that response is colored by the personality of the aspirant, is tinctured with his pride and his ambition. Need is truly recognized or realized. The desire to meet the need is genuine and sincere. The longing to serve and lift is real. Steps are taken which are intended by the aspirant to enable him to fit in with the plan, but the trouble with which we on the inner side, which is like, people watching over you guys, the problem which we on the inner side have perforce to deal is that though there is no question as to willingness and desire to serve, the characters and temperaments are such that well-nigh insuperable difficulties are presented. Through these aspirants, we have to work, and the material they present gives us much trouble frequently. Basically, what they're saying is, this is the hand we were dealt. This is how many humans are ready to, who said, hey, I can serve. And it's like I remember when I used to coach soccer, I coached recreational soccer, which wasn't the elite. It's like you got everybody. You got the people who were good and the people who you went, oh my God.
The kid that's picking flowers, the kid that's just skipping around.
But they're on the team.
Yeah, but they're on the team. Everyone's on the team.
And everyone, my rule was everyone plays for at least 2/3 the match. So I had this way of working it out. But that was the rule. And when you were substituted out, it didn't mean you were bad. It just we needed a different combination of people. But it wasn't, well, we're going to put in our elite players.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the team won't grow. And then the elite players just become the separated self.
Yeah.
If they're not careful. I've seen that.
Yeah.
And we had this a group of, not the most brilliant soccer players in the world, but because we worked as one, we reached heights we had never dreamed of. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But you realize it's about how do you serve, and basically it's how do you help each other. Because as you know in soccer, Joe, you played it at a high level. Is that it's not what you do when you've got the ball; it's where are you when you don't have the ball.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the name of the game to that game. Yeah. I also love how this particular passage is it's one of the more humorous passages. It's so it's so dry that but it's actually it's quite funny.
Well, it gets us much trouble. Well, they're basically saying, "Oh God, this is the hand we've been dealt."
Yeah.
Well,
and it's also, it should give solace to anyone that it has to be. If you've seen like a heist movie where they put together the team, you have to deal with all these crazy personalities if you want to get this thing done. And that's us. Like, they're dealing with all these humans that we're everything that humans are, but that's what we have to deal with. This is the matter of which the light has been infused into, and this is where it has to play out.
We're always quoting movies, so I go back to, I think we're talking about the Blues Brothers, putting the band back together.
That's right.
So you talk about sense of humor. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'd like to quote a couple of paragraphs from the Tibetan, because I think it's really important, because service can be so serious. Mm-hmm. By serious, often we mean you can't smile, you've got to be poker faced, and you've got to take this as absolute seriously. Life is serious, meaning life is, and you don't mess with it. But how we approach life is, in a more open way. So here's what the Master DK advises. He says, "May I, in all earnest, offer to you the paradoxical injunction to work with utter earnestness, and yet at the same time to refuse to work with such earnestness and not to take yourself so earnestly. Those who stand on the inner side and study the work of the world aspirants today see an almost pitiful distress of individual deficiency, a sustained and strenuous effort on their part to make themselves what they ought to be, and yet at the same time, a distressing lack of proportion and no sense of humor whatsoever."
There it is.
I urge upon you to cultivate both these qualities. Do not take yourself so seriously, and you will find that you will release yourself for freer and more potent work. And then one more sentence. Take the plan seriously and the call to serve, but waste not time in constant self-analysis.
We were talking before, and this is why I think one of my favorite authors continues to be Douglas Adams. Just that's just the way he. You have to get on with it, and you have to do the things that are happening, but also don't panic and don't take yourself too seriously. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then one more offering from DK on the need for humor. There are two things that every disciple must someday learn, my brother, because this is taken from the letters that he wrote to each of the disciples he had. He pulled together a group of disciples that he wanted to give special training to see if they could form a cohesive unit, a group it was a group service unit. Mm-hmm. It was his experiment to take the best and the brightest, if you like, and say, can we create this field? Mm-hmm. And Dr. Roberto Assagioli, who is the founder of psychosynthesis and the inspiration behind Meditation Mount, was one of those disciples who got direct training from DK. So this is what he said. There are two things that every disciple must someday learn, my brother. One is to cultivate the ability to, quote unquote, sit light in the saddle, to use an old proverbial injunction. And the other is to develop a sense of humor, a real, not forced, capacity to laugh at oneself and with the world. This is one of the compensations which comes to those who can succeed in working in the light upon the mental plane. It's a very delicate place to stand. Mm-hmm. You're not making fun of the world.
Yeah.
You're not making fun of another. Mm-hmm. It's all beneficial and benevolent humor has to be self-reflective. Mm-hmm. It's not barbed. It's not thrown at somebody in order to harm.
Yeah. But it is also a critique of the one self. So, and all these different aspects of the one self, we're reminding ourselves to, that through humor, reminding ourselves that, this is it. This is, hello, hi, you seeing this? We're seeing it. We're all seeing it,
Right.
because there's an honesty to humor, because if laughter is involuntary, you don't laugh unless it's funny, and what is the funny is the revelation of the truth in an interesting way and unique way.
I remember my friend David Spangler once saying, "The masters are laughter incarnate."
I love that. Yeah.
Because it's the joy.
Mm.
Laughter is like the expression of joy. You see the funny side. You see the beauty. You see the beauty of life in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that we're told by the Master DK is that service is the greatest healer and teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And also, by having humor, it allows us to have a right sense of proportion, to keep things in perspective, which is what he calls humility. Yeah. Humility is the ability to see things as they are, not belittle them, not aggrandize them, yourself or others. And so humor really keeps everything in balance. And also, when humor is not present and things get very sort of dark and heavy, then fear comes in. Then tyranny comes in. And I think I told the story before of R. Ogilvy Crombie, the person that watched over Findhorn. He was, if you like, our guardian angel. He was trained in the traditions of magic, and he was like our protector. He was like our Gandalf. And whenever he would meet a being, he wasn't quite sure, what side of the fence they were on. He would. There were two ways he had of testing that. One was to say, in the name of the Holy Trinity, I command you to reveal your true self, sort of thing. The other one was to say, you got a funny nose, what happened? Oh, you got big ears.
Yeah.
And if the person would say, yeah, it's funny, yeah, that's just my lot in life, you knew they were okay. But if they got angry, and then they were so centered in their the appearance, which is what if you like, the consciousness that's still locked in darkness. And so when you are separated as a self, you can inadvertently become a servant of darkness.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah,
that was the warning. Now you can make that really heavy, but it really means that when you're not, lighten up, when you're not heart-lighted or light-hearted,
right?
What you are serving, you're not serving the joy of life. You're serving something that is less evolved, that is dark, that the light has not yet been revealed. And so servants of darkness simply means that you're holding things down, whereas the world service we're talking about is helping people release the light and the love that lives inside them, that lives inside our families, our communities, inside the planet itself, to help it become a sacred planet, one that is transmitting and then is in service to the solar system.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I think we have to, well, I think that's a good place maybe to pause, and then we pick this up heading back to service and pick that back up again. But I really love that. That's a great, in service of the light of the dark, rather it takes some of that sort of angels and demons sort of out of it, our concept of it, and more it looks like, are you producing or consuming?
However, when you have an energy or a consciousness, it has to be embodied. So that there are entities that embody, if you like, separateness. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there is I always go back to the yin and the yang symbol. You have to understand that there is an equal proportion here. Yeah, I mean that's fantastic.
So. Do you think this is a stopping place for this episode, or do you want to do some more, or what's
we should maybe stop on this one, and then we'll pick it up.
Yeah,
pick it up from here.
I had the sense that it's going to be a trilogy.
I do too. So, and because I don't want to rush anything. I don't want
No.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it goes back to service isn't something that I'm obliged to do.
Right.
Service is the natural response of my life when I'm liberated.
Yeah, and it's a call. I almost say like the call's there for everyone, and maybe you're not going to answer it in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But it's the call's waiting for you, and if this is your time in this lifetime, it's like here, this is what it means to be of service.
Well, the phrase "many are called, but few are chosen."
Mm-hmm.
There's a different wrinkle on that one, isn't it? When many are
right.
called, few are chosen. Well, it's like, no, so you didn't make it to the bigs, you know.
Right.
You're in the minors.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't mean that really for me. Many are called,
but few answer.
But few have the ability to truly answer the call.
Yeah.
And each lifetime, we grow in consciousness and responsiveness.
Yeah.
And therefore, there comes a time when we are able to answer the call. I guess what we're facing now is a sense of urgency, not fear, but urgency that, wow, we need to lift this now.
Right.
Because the waters are sort of up to our nose.
Indeed.
And therefore, we need to lift it through love, lift it through light, lift it in service. Therefore, there is a call, all souls on deck. And it's not scrambling out of fear. It's responding of an urgent need of the times.
Yeah, it's as you said before. It's like all souls on deck. You know, it's time. It's 2025.
2025.
We'll see.
So, and thank you. This service announcement has been brought to you by Meditation Mount.
That's right. Yeah. So if it's if you're one of those who are called to service, or and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably predisposed or inclined to that sort of direction. This is your call.
Well, yes. In fact, this podcast was a public service broadcast on behalf of the soul of humanity.
Yeah, that's right.
And we are glad that we're able to air it on the behalf of us all.
Yes. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. And please give freely.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. I'll see you next episode.
Okay.
Bye.